Oh.
Hello, Abraham. Great to be in front of you again. I'm somewhat prepared, though I'm never really prepared for this. Okay.
All right. Hello.
I got my notes. I started to feel or imagine the vibrational harmony by just coming here and observe people and places align on our trip here to see you again. Was that my imagination, or was there some sort of energy taking place when...
Well, that's an interesting question, and we are so glad you put it into those ridiculous words.
Thank you.
Because everything we're talking about, in other words, we're not asking you to face the reality. We're asking you to use your imagination. We're asking you to contour your thoughts in order to produce feelings. So now you're saying to us, I started to feel some things, and was I just making it up? And we said, who cares? That's really the point of all of this. How do you sort out a reality from all of this anyway? Somebody has to focus it into being. It might as well be you.
What snatched my attention on it was that I get your CDs and I listen to them almost every day, if not every day. And I felt like, well, I can listen to the CDs from the workshop. And my loving wife, she says, come on, we're going. And I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and go. And
well, it's interesting that we had the conversation about the lions and the horse right before this conversation. So we accept that we're the horse for you today. That you got dragged here kicking and screaming to some extent. And that really is the point, that it's a very powerful conversation that we're having, because in a world where you are, like most humans, accustomed to action. Action makes up your life. If you don't factor in energy flow, then you don't understand anything that's happening with you, you see. And now this is a sophisticated conversation that we're having about energy flow and about creating your own reality and about turning thoughts to things and about managing your energy. And we want you to be at the point that Esther wants to be at too. She's not there yet, where she doesn't take action unless the energy is supporting it. Unless there's something that feels really strong, she's not doing it. She doesn't want to do things to please others. She doesn't want to do things because somebody else thinks that she should do them. She wants to do them because they are a vibrational match to the momentum that she's got going, and she's being inspired from non-physical to timing and placement and experience that's going to be the optimum experience. She's been doing it for quite a while, but she really means it these days, of calling herself a vibrational snob, meaning that she wants to make sure that the energy is flowing before she takes the action. Because if the energy isn't really flowing, then the action is puny and paltry and minuscule in comparison. And once you've lived the high-flying life of being in that sweet spot where you're translating thoughts to things, once you do that, you cannot go back, you see. And so that's what you're getting at, and that's all right.
Well, exactly. Dang, okay.
All right, get out.
No, you put up with me so far. I'm going to try to stick around here. Let's see.
So you might ask, then why? Hundreds of people in this room, lots of hands up. Why would we call on the one that didn't even really want to be here? Because there was no resistance in his vibration. Small desire, no resistance. Small desire, some desire. We're not saying small desire. We know that you understand this, that you get it, that you're living it, but you really don't think that you have anything new to bring to this conversation, and you really don't believe that Abraham has anything new to bring to you, because you've been listening to the recordings for a while, and it's sort of the same old crap, isn't it? You create your own reality, and it's all about vibration, blah, 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 and there's a vortex over there, and it's got all the stuff in it that you want, and you got to get in the receptive mode, and when you do, it'll come, and blah, 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 blah. Please give me my money back.
A lot of that's true.
But what we come for, we'll just tell you what we come here for. We come for the new nugget. We come for the new clarification. We know that in a conversation that's going to take place for about a little over 3 hours today, that there are going to be some realizations and revelations constantly, realizations if you're in the receiving mode, where you're going to understand things in a way that you did not understand them before. And so the nugget in life is what you're always looking for. Think about it. Every day, the same old earth rotates on its same old orbit in the same old way. Not much new happening in your neighborhood, not really, unless you're lucky enough to have a killing or something. Mostly, the sun comes up, this time of the year it feels about like that, and you're going to have about the same thing for breakfast tomorrow that you had today. In other words, for the most part, you live in a platform of life that is pretty stable and pretty consistent. But it's those new experiences that you're reaching for. It's those new experiences where you allow yourself to become the new person that your life has already asked you to be. We know without exception that every single one of you has created a vortex that you have not even begun to fully realize. And that if we can find just one more way of helping you release resistance in just one more way, that you're going to be in a more chronic, steady, receptive mode. And each time you consciously acknowledge that you desire something, and then consciously choose thoughts that produce emotions that feel good to you, and then consciously realize that you are in the receiving mode and you're following those impulses, and then you get to watch the cooperative universe yield to you, which produces a more steady feeling of worthiness. Then we know that you are then finally on the track that you intended to be on when you made the decision to come into this physical experience to begin with, where you accept your worthiness and you accept your ability to create.
I can see so many things that you tell us about. I could see the vibrations. I could see the patterns of the vibrations. I could see the belief systems. But I still have questions about, like, I want to change my belief systems. I want to change them faster. And I know they're changing now, but I want to change them faster.
Well, then look at it this way. Rather than changing beliefs, now, you're really going to like this. You're right. You've got to do one of two things. You've either got to change your belief or you've got to find a new one. You either have to find a belief that matches your desire, or you have to stop thinking the belief that doesn't match your desire. And it really is the same process, because you can't focus upon what you don't want and what you do want at the same time. So the operative word here is focus, isn't it? But rather than thinking of focusing thought, think for just a little while. We're talking about a day or 2 or 3 or 4 or 30, just a little while, a month really, of deciding that you're going to focus your emotions rather than your thoughts, meaning you're going to be aware of your emotions, so that when you find an emotion that doesn't feel good, you do your best as early in the recognizing that it doesn't feel good as possible to release the thought, which means think a different thought. Because you can't just stop thinking. When you say, I'm not going to think about that, you're thinking about that thing that you're not going to think about. So when you say, I'm not going to think about that, you are thinking about it. That's just the way law of attraction works. There's no exclusion. So when you feel a little negative emotion, if rather than saying, I need to change this thought or I need to bridge this belief, if you would say, I want to find a thought that feels better right now, right now, right now. If you've adapted to not feeling good, then this isn't going to work for you. So then you got to meditate until you discover that you can feel better. Have you ever done something so long that you just think, if I have to do this for 1 more minute, I'm just going to jump off a cliff? Like watching television these days? You just can't turn it on without a whole plethora of information descending on you that is contrary to the way your inner being sees your world. And so as you submit yourself or subject yourself to a pummeling, a hammering of conversation that is contrary to what your inner being knows about so many of the things that you're thinking about, after a while you just sort of numb out on your emotions and you just sort of accept that it's normal to not feel so good. And it's not normal to not feel so good. Esther was walking down the hallway in the vastness of the underworkings of this hotel. It's an amazing place, so beautifully organized. And as she was walking down this long hallway, a man came out of one of the corridors and walked away from her. And as she was watching him, she thought how alive he is. Just the way he was holding himself and the joy he seemed to be taking in his body just simply walking down the hallway. He just looked alive and happy and healthy and vital and in alignment. And Esther just sort of savored it in the brief moment that he came out of the door and before he went around the corner. She just thought, that person is really happily in his body right now.
I can be that way, but I can go to the other extreme.
But the question is, why would you go the other way when the other way?
I don't see it coming. It's like a surprise box.
Well, if you don't see it coming, it's because you weren't paying attention. And that really is the thing that we want to say. People say, just came out of the blue. And we say, no, it came out of the oblivious. It came out of the willingness to endure less than positive emotion. So if you're willing to endure less than positive emotion, then you're developing habits about that, and law of attraction keeps bringing them to you until this is just how life feels.
It's funny, you were talking about Esther, and one of my questions I have here is, how do we become less sensitive about how we think we appear to others? In general, how do we become less sensitive to our social environments? And you were basically telling me about Esther.
There's something important that we want to say about that. Most of you have let your social environment be the other end of your guidance system. And here's what we mean by this. Did you accept from our very first analogy today about seeking guidance when you don't know where you are? In other words, there has to be a relationship between where you want to go and where you are. That has to be a known quantity, the relationship between where you want to be and where you are. And until it is a known quantity, then you're just drifting around, you're lost. And so when you accept that the emotions that you feel are the indication of that known quantity of where you are and where you want to be, and you realize it's not about time and it's not about distance, it's only about vibrational frequencies, then you should be able to, with any reasonable amount of attention, hone yourself in on the vibrations that feel good. You are like homing pigeons. You should be able to feel your way home. You should be able to. And home isn't just home where you used to be. Home is that new environment that you've created with your inner being, where all that you have become and everything that you want is.
Can you let me have it and tell me, am I getting close?
We'll let you have it. So when you realize that it is vibration and that feeling good is what really matters, and then if you're willing to start reaching for thoughts that feel better, your whole countenance here as we are visiting with you is, this is hard, or I'm not doing it. And while that is the reality that maybe you've been living, it's not the whole reality, because sometimes it isn't hard and often you are doing it. And so you just have to decide how you want to feel. But most of all, you've hit upon the most important topic of this day or any other day, especially in this time and space that you are all focused. We're going to answer your question now about what is it that you do? How is it that you become less sensitized to what other people think about you? And there are two ways of going about that. One is to find yourself, however you can, in the receptive mode or in the receiving mode of your inner being, and just hone in on that good feeling signal. That's one way. And of course, that's the way that we recommend, but the other way works too. The other way is, don't do that. Care about what others feel, and then notice the fluidity with which they feel different things about you at different times. Notice the futility of trying to please them when they don't even really know what they want from you. Notice how fickle they are in what they do want from you. Notice that no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you do for them, no matter how much you stand on your head in order to please them, they still aren't pleased because you're looking for love in all the wrong places. That is not the guidance system. We started today by talking about the guidance system, and yet most humans treat that subject like this. Here I stand, and I'm somewhere between where I am and what you think I should be, and what you think I should be, and what you think I should be, and you too, 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 and you too. So please, all of you get together and make the same decision about what you think I should be, Because when I do what you think I should be, you're happy, but you aren't. And when I do what you think I should be, you're happy, but you aren't. And so you're pretty much driving me crazy because I'm trying to be what you think I should be. And after a little while of doing your level best to be the facilitator, to be the uplifter, to be the one that is always in the right place at the right time, who always makes it better for anyone or everyone, and then to have them not let it be better anyway, there's still more that I need from you. And you didn't do that quite right. And I don't feel good because you did that instead of that. And after a little while, if you're wise, you come to the awareness that it must not be my job. I could not possibly have been born in order to please all of you who want different things from me and everybody else. Surely there's another guidance system within me. Surely there's a reasonable guidance system within me who really understands who I am as a spirit, who I am as a soul, who I am as an energy, who I am as an eternal being, who I am and what I've come into this physical life experience to be. Surely there is someone who knows that. And we say, yes, there is. There is someone who knows that. It's your inner being. It's that cadre of non-physicals who are aware of you, who know where you are in relationship to where you want to be, and who are calling you to the fullness of who you have allowed yourself to become in every moment of every day.
I've got two quick questions real fast, if I may. One is...
Well, you've interrupted the most significant flow.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Go, please.
Oh, we're done. But we don't want to stop without acknowledging with all of you that if you are understanding the emotions within you, and if you are understanding what those emotions within you are pointing out, then you will never again be lost in a world of others who are wanting lots of different things from you. You just have to come to the place where you're making the decision that I want to feel good, and it's good that I do feel good, and when I do feel good, it means I'm in vibrational harmony with who I am, and there isn't really anything else to consider. Now, we're happy to address your two important questions.
You know, this is one of those things you're in the shower and something comes to your mind, and I'm constantly having conversations with you and with y'all, and I'm thinking, why would anyone put themselves in a position, if they choose their parents, why would they put themselves in a position where they would choose to be born into a painful environment? And I know in my case, I picked up a perception of being a victim, and it seems like I have trouble shaking it.
Well, we're going to appeal to your human logic for just a moment.
Please.
Why would a football player play football?
Okay, because they wanted to.
Yeah, but why? Have you seen those guys? Have you seen what they do to each other? So the potential of getting beat up pretty good is a sure thing. So why do they do it?
They don't know any better.
Well, is there any upside to it?
They learn. They learn not to do it. It hurts.
But is there any upside to it?
Money.
Maybe money. But what about focusing your physical body into greater agility? What about focusing your physical body into greater clarity? What about love of the game? What about intuitively knowing where you need to be in a certain situation? What about connecting with higher power, if you want to call it that, and accomplishing extraordinary feats? What about thrilling a crowd? What about giving crowds something to focus upon that allows their energy to flow? There are lots of upsides to it.
You're getting me now. Gosh.
There are a lot of upsides to it, and Esther's sister, her little sister, who has always been taller and wiser by Esther's words than Esther, has been talking about the poop to value ratio for a long time. Poop to value. She uses different words sometimes. But meaning, is the probable negative experience worth the probable positive experience? And we're not really asking you to weigh things in those ways. We just know that when you made the decision to come into this physical experience, comfort wasn't your top priority. Understanding who you are is. We just know that when you came in, having an easy path wasn't your intention. It was figuring out how to create your path was. We know that when you came into this physical experience, just having someone be nice to you all the time so you didn't have to have any discernment of what your guidance was telling you wasn't your path. But activating a powerful guidance system was. Not one of you said, I'll come into this body, but before I get there, get everything all cleaned up so when I get there, it's nice for me. None of you said that. Every one of you said, I'll go forth into this sea of contrast, and out of it, I will come to my own conclusions of what I prefer. And all of you said, and I will never know more clearly what I do want than when I'm living some of what I don't want. And so you all chose contrast. That doesn't mean you all said, I'll go forth and have misery in order to create desire. But it did mean that you said that you would come forth and have variety in order to come to your own discernment. Sometimes, in fact, often, in fact, really often, as you said about yourself, you get into a victim mentality pretty early on because others around you sort of teach you that if you will please me, it will be better for you. So you start catering to those who have no real power to make anything better for you. So let's take a mother, for example, or a father, some mentor, somebody who matters to you, and let's imagine them really caring about you and making everything as easy as possible for you. And in their misguided belief that if they can just feather your nest and pave your way and make it good for you, that'll get you off on the right foot. But instead, what they teach you is to look for that in places where you're not going to find it. So you've got this feathered nest, let's say, and then this person doesn't feather your nest, and so you feel abused by that person, or that person doesn't, you feel abused by that person. And so it doesn't take very much before you begin to feel a bit like a victim. Because after all, anybody who doesn't give you what you want is abusing you in some way. Yes? Or what if in early stages your nest isn't feathered? What if you are expected to take care of yourself better? What was it for you? What happened in your experience that made you carry this feeling of victimhood forward?
You want my answer on that?
We want your perspective, yeah.
Well, I had a stepdad that beat the crap out of me.
So are you crapless now?
It's like I have that vibration, though. It's like I'm having trouble with my belief system, but my vibration seems to be still clung to that.
So what he demonstrated to you was you're inappropriate, therefore you deserve this beating.
He said I was an accident. I wasn't meant to be. Nobody wanted me.
So this is what we're talking about. Instead of understanding the relationship between who you are and your inner being, who knows your value, so many people meet up with someone influential in their experience and they try to establish a relationship with that person. Now we have some questions for you. Do you ever remember believing him? Did you believe him?
No, but I wanted to please him. So
now wait, it's good. You didn't really believe him, but he was bigger.
Oh yeah, a lot bigger.
And meaner.
And sometimes he was the only one there and I was totally at his mercy.
Yeah, so now let's talk about this just a little bit. So you desired to please him because?
So I would leave me alone.
So desired
also,
to...
I guess I saw my self-image in...
Maybe, but now you're superimposing that.
Okay.
So you didn't know about your own guidance system, although it was there. And your own guidance system, this is how your guidance system works. When you think a thought that is contrary to the thought that your inner being is thinking, you feel the discord in the form of negative emotion. So even without the beatings, when someone says to you, you're worthless or you're unimportant, the reason that that feels so awful as you consider it is because it is so contrary to what your inner being knows. But of course, at that early stage, you didn't know that that was what was happening. And this is what we want to help you to realize. So you did your best to contour your life experience to please this person, to please this unpleasable person.
To protect myself.
Yeah, but here's the question that we really want to ask you. Did you ever please him?
Yeah, a couple times.
Were you able to contour your life on a consistent enough basis that you were convinced that he now saw you as worthy and valuable? Here's our question to you. Did you get from him what you needed in order to understand your value?
One time I beat somebody up and he was really pleased. He said he was proud to call me son.
So he is disconnected from who he is, And in his disconnection, he fills that void through belligerence and bullying and that sort of thing.
And one time I asked him when I think I was about 12 years old, and it just seemed like it was just ridiculous. I said, why do you keep on hitting me? And he just kind of gave me an evil grin and said, because he really enjoys it.
So what do you think about that now?
I think that was then, but I still see my vibrations affected by it.
Well, it's still really active in your vibration. In other words, when you tell that story, it's as if it's happening right now. It's as if he's doing that to you right now, only he isn't. And this was a emphatic thing that happened to you. There's no question about that. We're not making light of it in any way. The most important part of this conversation was your question to us: why would anybody choose? And there's a question beneath that question, or there's a belief beneath that question that is at the heart of some other wobbles that you've got with this work that we are doing, and that is, you cannot accept that you would have chosen that. You can't accept that you would have chosen that. Why would anybody choose something that is so unpleasant or something?
It seems like a heavy burden to try to change my belief system with.
For sure. Why would anyone choose that? And since words don't teach, we can't conjure enough words to soothe that. So we're going to ask you if you have any way through your own life experience to answer that question.
Oh, absolutely. I want to write. I could feel I have a sensitivity from those experiences to give me kind of a gift for expressing myself.
So you already knew the answer to a question that you just asked us. You already knew that answer. And your answer was, hey, I gained a lot. I got so I could stand up on my own 2 feet.
But I'm frozen. It seems like I still have like I'm in an invisible cage, and I freeze. It's like I disassociate.
But that's because you're telling that story and holding yourself there. So let's talk about the details of what you are expressing to us. So you beat somebody up at one point. Did you feel good while you did it?
It was like I was beating up my stepdad, which I did too. But I went through 13 years of it before I was able to finally throw that monkey off my back.
All right, so are you saying that at some point along the way, you realized that beating people up or being beat up, either one of them was not something that was a vibrational match to who you are?
I always regretted it after that I went too far.
So we have another question for you that's important here. Which felt better, being beat up or beating someone up?
Being beat up felt worse.
Yeah. So now think about what we've talked about in terms of the emotional scale. How guilt feels far worse than blame. They're terrible feeling emotions in any case. But in blame, there is more control, isn't there? And in beating someone up, there's more control than in being beat up.
I felt helpless, yeah, definitely.
So you were showing yourself from where you stood. In other words, you can't get to where you want to be from any place other than from where you are. You can't be someplace other than where you are. Your navigational system, 100% of the time, is taking into consideration where you are. Where you were was someone who didn't understand about your guidance system, who was getting beat up on a pretty regular basis, and who really didn't like that, who was not loving yourself because somebody else wasn't loving you, and who didn't like that. And so from where you were, you couldn't jump into love, even though that was your innate soul tendency. You couldn't jump right into love. You were a little boy living in a life experience where it was coming at you and you were reacting to the experience. And that's what most people are doing, is reacting to experience. At this stage in your life, you don't need to react to that anymore, but you still are, because you've kept it active in your vibration, so you're still reacting to it. You could start telling different stories and then you wouldn't be reacting to it, but we'll get to that here in just a moment. So there you were, reacting to your experience, and then you found a way to feel a little better than being beat up. You gathered your own strength, you gathered your own resources. Can any of you feel, we're asking you especially, but we want you to weigh in on this mentally also. Can you see how, as he's being beat up, on a regular basis, he's putting all kinds of desires into his vortex. Desires like, I want the world to be a nicer place, and I want this man to be a nicer man, and I want to be able to defend myself, and I want to be able to take care of myself, and I don't want to be beat up, which means I do want to have strength and so forth. Can you see how much he was putting into his vortex? So as who you are vibrationally is becoming clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer to you. Can you see how life experience caused you to begin to become more and more of that?
At times, for sure.
So, do you beat people up on a regular basis now?
I'm not like that, but I do have anxiety where I could feel I got to hold myself back. In other words, it's a problem-solving technique I don't put a lot of value in, but when you see lack of options, it's one of the ones that pop in your mind.
Well, the lack of option, do you run out of physical options? In other words, so let's talk about the options that come forth from only a physical standpoint. So I'm this little kid and I'm getting beat up, and the option is not to be beat up or to beat somebody else up or to beat the big one up. The option is to get beat up. That's the option. I don't have the option to beat him up. That's not going to happen. So now what are my options? To get beat up or to run and hide? Or to get beat up, or to contour my behavior so that I don't get beat up as often.
I was never able to run and hide. I could freeze. I could try to not pretend I wasn't there.
We want you to follow us philosophically and conceptually, because even in talking about this, it activates what happened to you so that you're going right back there. It's all right. We just want you to stay with us just a little bit. So in the beginning, your options were fewer because you were too little to beat anybody else up. And so you got beat up. So then your options were you could get beat up, or you could contour from whatever your very young rational mind told you, and you could be as good as this person wanted you to be so that you didn't get beat up. But the beatings never stopped, did they? Because you can't stand on your head in different ways.
If he was in a bad mood, I was a victim.
And so through life experience, you came to realize that is not an option. Let's carry that to a further understanding. Let's say you're getting beat up, and so then you get bigger, and then you start beating people up, and then you beat him up, and then you get a weapon, and then you get a tank, and then you get an army. In terms of what it takes in terms of physical prowess to keep riding that wave of getting beat up, you just can't get to where you want to be from there. And so through life experience, after a little while, you attract someone like us. There are a lot of people talking about vibrations these days who begins to tell you that there is a power, there's an energy that creates worlds, that if you do the work vibrationally, you won't be in the position where you have to do the less powerful work of taking action. And this is the reason that this conversation is so important to have, is because you live in a world that is so dependent upon action. People factioning off, joining groups, trying to gain more power, and just beating each other up all day, every day, and no one feeling very good in the process of that. Surely, like the little kid who got beat up until you grew up, as a mass consciousness in this physical world, can't you feel yourself coming to an awareness that there's got to be some better way than just having the loudest voice saying the most negative thing focused against the other? Isn't it occurring to you in very real experiential terms that there is another way of going about living happily ever after other than trying to push against what you do not want?
I would think it's my belief system, and I'm
This is why, as we've come into your experience, we're approaching it from the only way that you can really hear it. We say to you, we're not talking about somebody beating you up. We say you create your own reality, and you question that because it didn't.
Yeah, but like why would I step into that?
And then we say, because you're offering a vibration that law of attraction is responding to. And then we say, and you can control that vibration. You were never able to control that mean man. You could not control that mean man. So if you had to depend on action, or maybe a mother who would defend you, or maybe a system of government that would say, this mean man cannot do these mean things to you.
My mother wouldn't defend me.
But what we're getting at is when you're reliant upon the action in order to make it better, there's never enough action to compensate for that. And so in the meantime, something really wonderful happened to you. You were, without even knowing you were doing it, you were building a vortex. You were building a vibrational reality. You were becoming stronger with your inner being. You were becoming clearer with your inner being. You were becoming smarter. You were becoming more aware that you create your own reality. You were putting things into your vortex that all these years later, when nobody's beating you up, you could become a vibrational match to if you would let yourself just go there a little bit.
I want that
You
big bounce.
cannot keep fighting the battles of what happened. One of the things about your inner being that is really worth knowing is that your inner being never looks back. Your inner being never regurgitates one of those beatings. Your inner being never looks back at that. And so when you do, right away, you affect a separation between yourself and your inner being. This is the best conversation we've ever had in order to help you to understand that action has never been the way to make things happen, and yet most people are relying almost completely upon the action part of it. Well, it's time for you to stop worrying about the action part of it. It's time for you to get hold of the leverage that creates worlds and utilize it to your advantage. It's time for you to offer a vibration that never brings belligerent people into your experience. Because you start fighting against belligerent people, you'll start attracting belligerent people. Because there is no law of exclusion. When you see something that you want and you say yes to it, you invite it into your experience. When you see a bully or something that you don't want and you shout no at it, you invite it into your experience. So there's a war against drugs and a war against murder and a war against crime and a war against all of those things. And all of them getting bigger because attention to them makes them bigger, you see. So then you all have to decide. And by telling your story of when you were little, it makes it harder for you or anyone to hear, because it's hard to imagine being a little kid and experiencing the wrath of some disconnected person and knowing what to do about it. We know that. But you survived it like your inner being knew you would. You put all kinds of things in your vortex like your inner being knew you would. You are so much more than you could ever been without that experience. There is now something for you to come into vibrational alignment with. In other words, you're really going to like these lions when you get them. You're really, really going to like these lions when you get them. Because you've spent so much time creating all of this. And when you come into vibrational alignment with that, are there mean people in the world? Yes, there are. Are there belligerent people in the world? Yes, there are. Are there bullies in the world? Yes, there are. Would you like to protect all of the victims from these bullies? Yes, of course you would. But you can't protect anyone from a bully that you've got your sights on. Because when you focus upon the bully, you disconnect from your power. You disconnect from any clarity. You disconnect from any timing. You disconnect from any resources that would assist you, you see.
And when the bully sees you being able to do that, they try harder to get your attention again.
Well, that's because when you think about a bully or anyone who is living and working in an action-oriented world, that's all they know. Bigger and louder and meaner is winning. But your inner being knows that alignment and love and source is winning. Your inner being knows that the energy that creates worlds. You know why? Those are the things that win, because when you croak, and you will, you won't take any of that with you. You won't take any of your bullying talent with you. You won't take any of your meanness with you. When you reemerge back into non-physical, you leave behind all of that. And you become part of that energy stream that continues to create worlds, you see. You see, much more than the beating, it was the awful way you felt. And the awful way you felt was because you were convinced that you weren't worthy when your inner being knows that you are. If your inner being wasn't so in love with you and knowing your worthiness, then those moments of not knowing it wouldn't have hurt you so much. If your inner being had agreed with your stepdad and had said, yeah, beat him up, he needs it, then there would have been no separation between you, and you wouldn't have felt terrible. The tears are still falling down your face because Your inner being adores you so much, and when you don't, you affect that crevasse. And that mean man is not around anymore doing that to you. And so your question is really a valid and important question. You say, why am I doing this to myself? Why would I be born into this? And why can't I let go of those beliefs? And we say, because you're still like so many people believing in the action instead of the energy. You're believing in the word instead of the alignment. You're believing in the word instead of the emotion. You can accomplish the emotion of love, but not while you remember that bad man. You find love often, but not when you're remembering getting beat up. So you've got to use your discipline to guide your thoughts toward what allow you love, instead of continuing to blame him for what you're doing to yourself now. He beat you up. Yes, he did. And no one thinks that was a good idea. But why would you have chosen something like that? Why would you choose that? Because you knew that in having that experience, that you would put into your vortex a legacy, a life experience, that once you came into vibrational sync with it, you would feel the wholeness of who you are. You knew that independence was the only way that you would ever know your true value. And we promise you, you are so much more because of that mean man than you would have been if someone had just coddled you and taken care of you and given you everything. Because in that experience that you want to call wrong or unwanted, or why would I choose it, you've created a vortex that when you come into alignment with it is going to give you such rapturous feelings of alignment and well-being that they are indescribable in terms of any words. And we know you've experienced those on many occasions. We know that you know what we're talking about. So when you're running around in this world and you see people being mistreated and you want to jump in and stop the mistreatment, we don't blame you. We think it's a good idea. We don't want anybody to beat up on anybody either. But there is far more detriment happening to far more people because of words that are spoken and thoughts that are being projected. There are not that many people being beat up physically in relationship with the numbers of you who are beating yourselves up by not going with the flow of who you really are. And that's really what the bottom line is. That's really what you have to understand. Nobody's doing anything to you, and that's the most important conversation that we could ever have with you, because there was a time when it really looked like somebody was doing something to you. It really looked like they had the upper hand. And so it's really easy to go through life still saying, well, they've got the upper hand. They've got the upper hand. If it's not this mean man beating me up, then it's the government not taking more of my money than they should. Or it's my employer who won't pay me what I'm worth. Or it's the person I live with, and on and on and on and on and on. There's always some reason that things aren't better for me, because you have the habit, a lot of people do, of putting it outside of yourself. But when you accept, oh, wait a minute. I can choose to remember that and get myself all bound out as if I was 10 years old again. Or I can choose a thought about something else and feel different. Let's see, I get to choose. So that's really the question that this day is bringing forth in a more powerful way than ever before. How can I stop facing a reality that is so in my face? How can I not use my eyes and ears and nose and fingertips and tongue? How can I not translate the physical reality when it's so in my face? And we say, you have to make the emotional reality more important to you for now. You have to care more about how you feel than anything else. Because we promise you, that man was mean, but you kill yourself when you don't love him. When you allow yourself to continue hatred towards somebody that maybe deserves it as much as anybody that we've ever talked about, you can't hate him without hurting yourself, because your inner being won't hate him.
I don't really feel hate towards him. If I have any anger, it's really towards my mom.
Doesn't matter. Your inner being will not have hatred towards or anger towards your mom, because your inner being understands that she was where she was. In other words, she was doing the best that she could do then too, you see. But, oh, really? To carry something so long ago forward into the now? In other words, this conversation is more about appealing to your logic. The other day, Esther was feeling a little jealousy at her beautiful granddaughter, who is so in love with life and has so many years ahead of her. And Esther was looking at her thinking, oh, I wish that I knew everything I know now and I could just be back in your body right now knowing what I know and having all of that out there ahead of me. And for just a little bit, Esther had how many years left in this physical body shortest consciousness? For just a little bit. And we said to her, once she went to sleep and woke up and meditated and got feeling happy again, we said to her, you know, Esther, you and Kate are exactly even in terms of your relationship with now, because all Kate has is now and all you have is now. And in the now, all you have is your relationship with your inner being or not. In other words, Kate has the potential of being miserable in her now. You have the potential of being miserable in your now. You have the potential of being joyful in your now. Kate has the potential of being joyful in her now. That's all there is. It's your relationship with your inner being. It's your vibrational relationship with who you are. That's all you have right here and now, you see. And so as you start thinking thoughts like that, you have the ability to come into such harmony with who you are right now. And who you are right now is so much more than you would ever be if it had not been for that relationship with that man. And that's why you chose it. You chose that for then because you knew you were choosing this for now. Talk about poop to value. You know who you are. You knew that words don't teach, that only life experience teaches. And sometimes you have to be without alignment pretty hard for pretty long before you start asking for and demanding for yourself alignment. And once you reach that place where nothing else will do, where everything else is irrelevant, where actions don't matter anymore, where nothing matters anymore, where the only thing that matters is your relationship with who you are, once you are there, then you're home free. Because once you care about that, then you can accomplish it, and then you just start living happily ever after. Now, 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 now. Really good time for a segment of refreshment.